Picture this. You're the only white guy in one of Memphis's most dangerous crews. You've already proven yourself time and time again, earned respect where most people never would. But then, one moment one mistake gets caught on camera, and just like that, Pooh Shiesty himself personally kicks you out of Choppa Gang. That's exactly what happened to a dude known as White Grape, and this story is absolutely wild. Most people like to believe gang loyalty runs deep, that once you're in, you're family for life. But what happens when your skin color makes you expendable? What happens when respect isn't enough to protect you once the spotlight turns on? White Grape went from being one of Choppa Gang's most trusted shooters to getting publicly and personally expelled by Pooh Shiesty after one bad day. No second chances, no grace period, just instant exile. And what White Grape did next after losing protection, status, and everything he built in the streets is something nobody saw coming.
Also known as rapper Pooh Shiesty, will remain in jail for now.
We were talking about a situation where someone felt so deeply disrespected by his own leader that he became desperate to prove he wasn't T-soft. This isn't just another street story, gang. This is about how loyalty really works in the trenches and how racial politics can quietly shape decisions even in places where survival is supposed to come first. Pooh Shiesty's decision to cut White Grape loose didn't just end a friendship or a crew connection. According to the story, that decision set off a chain reaction with deadly consequences. From the robbery video that allegedly triggered Shiesty's response, to White Grape's reckless attempt to regain respect, everything that followed exposed an ugly truth about how fragile street loyalty can be. This situation forces a deeper conversation about power, leadership, and expendability. When protection is taken away, desperation can take over, and in the streets, desperation often leads to irreversible outcomes. What started as internal discipline inside Choppa Gang quickly spiraled into something far more serious. So if you want to understand how Pooh Shiesty's leadership decision allegedly turned a white boy from Memphis into a murder suspect, and why the Choppa Gang leader may have been forced to make the hardest call of his career, you'll want to stay locked in until the end. Because with every detail, this story only gets crazier. Hit the subscribe button, drop a like, and let's get into it.
If y'all think this on some rap beat shit, or we rapping or going back and forth, I'm through. I retired. I ain't making no.
Before we get into White Grape's story, we need to understand where Choppa Gang came from and what they really represent. Pooh Shiesty didn't just wake up one day and decide to start a crew. Choppa Gang was born out of necessity, shaped by survival in the dangerous streets of South Memphis. Growing up in the Cane Creek projects, Pooh Shiesty was surrounded by violence from an early age. His father, known in the streets as Mob Boss, was deeply involved in street life and even founded a record label called Mob Ties Records. But that lifestyle caught up with him. Quickly he was locked up as an accessory to murder when Pooh was still a kid. That environment played a major role in shaping who Pooh Shiesty would become. When Pooh reached high school at Central High, he started linking up with other young hustlers who were all trying to get money by any means necessary. His closest associate was Big 30 from Whitehaven, along with others like Lil Hank and Twop, and several more. They began calling themselves Choppa Gang, a name that came from always staying armed and stuck. To understand the crew's influence, you have to know the main players. Big 30 was Pooh Shiesty's right-hand man, and the first to secure a major label deal through Moneybag Yo. Then there was Big Scar, Pooh's cousin and a founding member of Double R Gang, who was deeply rooted in the streets before unexpectedly blowing up through viral attention. Choppa Gang Hank is currently locked up on an attempted murder charge, allegedly involving a shooting that left someone paralyzed due to mistaken identity. Another core member is serving time for murder and 2 attempted murders. These weren't average street figures. Choppa Gang built its reputation through fear, violence, and real-life consequences. But here's where things take a turn at some point. They allowed a white member into their inner circle. That decision would later come back to haunt everyone involved. To fully understand Choppa Gang's conflicts, you also need context on Memphis street politics. The city is divided by train tracks that separate different neighborhoods and long-standing rivalries. North Memphis, South Memphis, and East Memphis all have their own crews, many of which have been at war for years. Being from South Memphis, Choppa Gang naturally had problems with crews from the north. The main beef that truly put Choppa Gang on the map was with EBG. a crew associated with figures like a Jizzle. This rivalry went back to high school, when Pooh Shiesty and a Jizzle attended Central High together, but came from opposite sides of the city. The tension simmered for years before finally exploding. That explosion came when Pooh Shiesty dropped Back in Blood with Lil Durk. On the track, he delivered a line aimed directly at EBG, telling them to come get it back in blood. To people familiar with the streets, this wasn't just rap talk. The line referenced a specific incident where Choppa Gang allegedly robbed an EBG location and took weapons. That moment marked a turning point. The song didn't just elevate Pooh Shiesty's music career, it solidified Choppa Gang's name in Memphis street history. And it set the stage for everything that followed.
I want you to just say what you just said on this status in my face. Come on, just do that. Just do that for me, please. Where you at? Get them on here, y'all. I ain't gonna lie though, on some real shit, I gotta keep it so 100. I ain't never like you, good. I ain't gonna lie, I ain't never like your bitch ass.
See, I try to give you a pass with Shiesty, good.
Whopping 30 trying to give your bitch ass a pass. I never liked you. You know I ain't like you.
EBG didn't stay quiet. They responded with their own remix wearing CGK hoodies, which stands for Choppa Gang Killer. To escalate the message, they even brought Quando Rondo into the video to throw shots at Lil Durk. The beef quickly went beyond music. Just days after dropping his diss track, the Jizzle was shot 3 times in the arm, showing just how real and dangerous this rivalry had become. But the EBG conflict wasn't Pooh Shiesty's first major problem. He also had long-standing issues with Big Boogie from North Memphis. That situation escalated to a deadly level. When Big Boogie's concert in Mississippi was attacked, over 50 shots were fired, resulting into deaths including Boogie's friend Jasmine, who was tragically on stage at the time. This is a level of violence tied to these Memphis beefs. These aren't just rap stories or internet beefs. These are real-world conflicts with deadly consequences, where music and street politics intersect in the most dangerous ways. Now, let's talk about White Grape, real name Kenny. This dude wasn't like the other kids in the Jump. Growing up white in South Memphis, he had to prove himself every single day just to survive. While other kids were worrying about homework and video games, White Grape was in the trenches, trying to earn respect from people who automatically assumed he was soft because of his skin color. White Grape attended Central High School alongside Pooh Shiesty and the rest of Choppa Gang. Even back then, he had a reputation, girls lined up, serious game, but more importantly, he was willing to put in work on the streets. White Grape wasn't some suburban kid acting hard. He was really from the struggle, really about that life. But in Memphis, and particularly within the black community, there's often an assumption that white boys can't be dangerous. People saw his skin and assumed he was an easy target, overlooking the person underneath. Despite putting in work for Choppa Gang and writing for his homies, many in the streets didn't take him seriously. They saw a white boy and thought he was an easy lick. White Grape eventually got initiated into the Grape Street Crips while still part of Choppa Gang. The initiation was brutal. They beat him mercilessly and took pictures that went viral across Memphis. His face was swollen and bloody, yet he took it like a soldier. That should have been enough to prove he was about that life, but apparently it wasn't. Here's where everything went wrong. One day, while handling business in the streets, some guys decided to test him. They saw a white boy with a gun and some money and assumed it would be an easy robbery. They were dead wrong about the easy part, but they still caught him slipping. According to street accounts, these men rolled up on White Grape, immediately got physical, and one pistol whipped him with his own gun while the others rifled through his pockets. They took his weapon, his money, everything. But here's the crazy part, someone was recording the entire thing. The video shows White Grape being completely humiliated. This wasn't just a robbery, it was a public embarrassment. The attackers knew he was Choppa Gang. They knew he was supposed to be a shooter, and they wanted everyone to see that they had taken down one of Pooh Shiesty's own. They pistol whipped him with his own gun while trash talking, making sure the disrespect was clear. When the video hit the streets, it spread like wildfire. In Memphis, reputation is everything. If you get caught lacking, especially on camera, it reflects on your whole crew. People began questioning Choppa Gang's credibility. How can you claim to be killers if your own member gets robbed and beaten with his own weapon? How can you let a white boy in your gang who can't even defend himself? The disrespect was unreal. People were openly mocking White Grape, saying he should have never been in the gang, claiming Choppa Gang was soft and letting anyone in just to boost numbers. The video circulated on Instagram, Facebook, group chats, every share making Choppa Gang look weaker. When Pooh Shiesty saw the robbery video, he was beyond heated. This wasn't just about White Grape getting robbed. It was about the reputation of his entire organization. In the streets, perception is reality. And the perception was that Choppa Gang was weak enough to let one of their own be publicly violated. Pooh Shiesty had to make a decision, and he made it fast. White Grape had to go.
3, 4 in the morning. Look at my phone. I pushed something out on me. I said, look at my phone again. He texted me again.
He texted me again. It didn't matter that he had been loyal, that he had put in work before. The fact that he got caught lacking and it was all on video meant he had now become a liability to the entire crew. The word came down fast. White Grape was officially kicked out of Choppa Gang. All ties were cut. In their eyes, he had brought shame to the organization, and there was no coming back. This is how the streets work. Loyalty only goes so far when you become a liability. You get cut loose. For White Grape, this was devastating. These weren't just gang members, these were his family. He had risked everything for Choppa Gang, taken beatings, put his life on the line, and now, after one slip-up, they were throwing him away. But here's the thing about the streets. Once you're in, you can never really get out. White Grape might have been kicked out of Choppa Gang, but he was still in Memphis. Still had to survive, still had to eat, and now, he had even more to prove because everyone was watching him, sizing him up, thinking he was weak. After being disowned, White Grape had to figure out his next move. He couldn't just disappear. He had to survive in the same dangerous streets that had already shown him no respect. So he went back to what he knew: hustling. White Grape started moving drugs again, trying to build his own operation without the protection of Choppa Gang. This was extremely dangerous. Now, everyone knew he was on his own. The streets were watching closely. Some felt bad for him, thinking he got a raw deal. Others saw him as an easy target, and some were just waiting to see what he would do next. Would he fold under pressure? Or would he prove he was really about that life? White Grape chose to prove himself, but that choice would cost him everything. He was determined to show Memphis that being white didn't make him soft. He was tired of assumptions, tired of disrespect, tired of being underestimated. Ironically, his biggest problem wasn't his ability to handle himself, it was everyone else's perception of him. He had already proven he could put in work. He had already risked his life for his crew. But in a city like Memphis, where reputation is everything and racial stereotypes run deep, perception often matters more than reality. White Grape's determination to prove himself ultimately led to tragedy. While hustling to rebuild his reputation and earn money, another group decided to test him. According to reports, he was in Binghamton trying to make a drug sale when some guys from West Memphis pulled up with counterfeit money, attempting to run a game on him. When White Grape realized the money was fake, tensions escalated fast. In a normal situation, this might have been a confrontation or a fight, but White Grape had something to prove. He had been robbed before, humiliated on camera, kicked out of his gang, and disrespected because of his race. He wasn't about to let it happen again. Seeing the fake money as another attempt to play him, he pulled out his gun and started shooting. One of the West Memphis men was killed, and White Grape was now facing murder charges. Just like that, his life changed completely. He went from being a trusted Choppa Gang member to being disowned, to being a murder suspect, all because he felt he had to prove he wasn't soft. The craziest part, this whole situation could have been avoided if people had just respected White Grape from the beginning. If the streets had judged White Grape by his actions instead of his skin color, if Choppa Gang had stood by him after the robbery, if society hadn't made him feel like he constantly had to prove his toughness, maybe that person would still be alive today. Let us keep it real. White Grape's story is ultimately about racism and how it affects everyone. Even in the streets, we often talk about how white people stereotype black people as dangerous. But not enough attention is given to how black people sometimes stereotype white people as weak. White Grape constantly had to deal with people assuming he couldn't handle himself because of his race, even in his own gang, even after proving himself multiple times. There was always that underlying question, was he really about that life? When he got robbed, instead of supporting him like they would have for a black member, Choppa Gang cut him loose immediately. Think about it, if Big 30 or Big Scar had been robbed on camera. Would Pooh Shiesty have kicked them out? Probably not. They would have seen it as a temporary setback, something to bounce back from. But because White Grape was white, the robbery was seen as proof of what some already believed. He didn't belong in that world. This kind of thinking is dangerous. When assumptions are made about people based on race, it creates pressure to overcompensate. White Grape felt like he constantly had to prove he was tough enough, street enough, dangerous enough. That pressure ultimately led him to make a decision that destroyed his life and ended someone else's. The streets don't care about skin color when bullets start flying. A white boy with a gun is just as dangerous as anyone else with a gun. But society's perceptions made White Grape feel like he had to prove himself over and over again. That need to prove himself is what got him in trouble. Today, White Grape is facing murder charges, potentially looking at spending the rest of his life in prison, all because he felt he had to prove he wasn't T-soft. All because people couldn't see past his skin color to recognize that he was truly about that life. Meanwhile, Choppa Gang has moved on. Pooh Shiesty is dealing with federal legal troubles. Big 30 is locked up on drug charges, and the crew is falling apart. But White Grape's story has largely been forgotten amid the chaos. The person he killed had a family, loved ones, and a life that was cut short over a drug deal gone wrong. That is the real tragedy, not just what happened to White Grape, but what happened to his victim. This situation highlights how toxic street culture can become, especially when mixed with racial stereotypes and the constant need to prove yourself. White Grape thought he had to kill to prove he wasn't weak, but all he really proved was that violence only breeds more violence. His story is a cautionary tale about the dangers of street life, the pressure to prove yourself, and how racial assumptions can hurt everyone involved. One day, White Grape was a respected member of one of Memphis's most feared gangs. The next, he was robbed on camera. A few months later, he was kicked out. And now he's facing murder charges. That's how fast the streets can turn on you. The saddest part, none of this had to happen. If people had judged White Grape by his character instead of his skin color, if Choppa Gang had shown more loyalty, if he had walked away from that drug deal instead of trying to prove a point, everyone involved would be better off. But that's not how the streets work. In that world, perception is everything. Respect is earned through violence, and one mistake can cost you everything. White Grape learned that lesson the hard way, and now he's paying the ultimate price. What do y'all think about this story? Was Choppa Gang wrong for kicking out White Grape? Should he have walked away from that drug deal? Let me know in the comments. And make sure you subscribe for more content like this. Until next time, stay safe out there.